What is going on? It's, of course, DJ Ash Noble here. Now, you'll have to bear with me. I've developed a little bit of a tickle at the back of my throat. I only just really, like, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, sort of really got rid of a cold. And now it's like this tickle's come back. Welcome back to another stream. Today I'm gonna just do an update on here on the celebration of life event for my dad. Mainly for people who might not follow me on Facebook, or just like for people that, excuse me, for people that only have me on here, and haven't like seen it on other platforms, and people who like may want to just like attend or like come. So I'm just going to do like a rundown of like what's going on, and then talk a little bit about the updates of like, you know, the updates are kind of more like how it's going to run and like how the night's going to kind of take place. But I'll just give a little brief for people who might be thinking like, what's going on? What is it? So basically, unfortunately, on Boxing Day, my dad was involved in a motorcycle accident, and he unfortunately never recovered. His injuries were too bad. They had to turn his machine off at the hospital. You know, he suffered a bleed on the brain that was just it was too bad. So unfortunately, the day after Boxing Day, he did pass away, which was, you know, he was, you know, one of he was a legend in the town of Driffield, where he grew up. And it was a sad loss to a lot of people, and obviously it's a big sad loss to me. Now, the whole reason that I do sort of everything that I do nowadays is all through my mum and dad. Basically, when I was growing up, they were pardon, they were, let's just say party animals. So they like to go out, they went clubbing a lot, and they listened to a lot of dance music, from ranging from like house music all the way up to kind of like hard house and trance, into kind of like clubland, and into a little bit of bounce as well. And basically, they inspired everything that I do now. So like they inspired my DJing, my MCing. They have just literally inspired every single thing that I do now. Through being like, trying to think what the word is now. By oh, what's the word? The word has gone completely out my head. But basically, when I was growing up, they listened to a lot of dance music. So I was kind of not forced to listen to it, but like I was growing up, it was on. I couldn't kind of help but hear it. So I was, yeah, I was sort of, you know, brought up listening to a lot of dance music. If we went out in the car, it was always on. You know, music channel was always on at home, sort of on the TV. I mean, music channels on TV, they're not too much of a big thing nowadays. A lot of them actually no longer run anymore. You know, because normally people will just like, you know, ask Alexa to play music, or they'll put on a Spotify playlist. But, you know, back in the day, there would be like music channels on the telly, and there would be like certain channels that would like do the top 40, and they'd show all the music videos, and then there'd be like music channels that would play like the classic music, and then there'd be like music channels for dance music and music channels for rock music. Whereas now there is still a few about, you know, but they're not as, like a massively big thing. But in the 2000s, Spotify, digital music was only really just starting to come in. Early 2000s, it was still very much, like it was still very much like, it was kind of discovered, but it wasn't, like people didn't really know what it was, and people wasn't really that keen on it to start with, and wasn't really sure where it was going to go. A lot of DJs didn't want to transition from vinyl to CD still at that point, although like CDs were sort of, becoming a bigger thing. And people kind of like, I've got hundreds of records here. Now, they're telling me that I've got to change them to CDs, and that was kind of like everybody's thought process back then. So anyway, cut a long story short, when I was growing up, there was always music. I was always influenced, that's the word, influenced, by the music that was being played around me. Pardon. To the fact that basically like I just grew up to love it, and that basically influenced like everything that I do now, from being a DJ, playing dance and sort of rave music. So I kind of owe that to my mum and dad, really. My mum kind of like it's kind of weird because they kind of, in a way, like they both passed down music to me, but they both kind of passed down a lot of like different music from each other. So like my mum, I would say, kind of passed down quite a lot of like the house music. My dad kind of passed down a little bit more of like the kind of like the hard dance and like the hardcore, which was, you know what I mean? Big ups. Yeah, kind of just, they kind of like passed down like lots of, different things. Like my dad was quite into like the hard house and the trance, and not that my mum wasn't as well, but she was very big into like like the house, but my dad also did like the house too. But yeah, I was influenced, it got passed down, and basically when I was a kid, my mum and dad used to go to a nightclub in the northeast in Yarm, sort of not far from Middlesbrough. A little bit sort of, I guess you would say it's like sort of in the Stockton area, but little town called Yarm. And basically, there was this massive bit of land, and there was this big place on it called Tall Trees, and basically it was like a big wedding reception place, so you could like have a wedding reception there. There was a massive hotel, there was like a swimming pool and a gym. It was an absolutely like huge place, but a big part of it was they had a super club that held around 7,000 people, which is absolutely mind blowing. And through the late 90s into the early 2000s, it became like, I think it became something like the second biggest nightclub in the UK. And it wasn't classed as a nightclub; it was actually classed as a super club. And there was 3 different rooms. All in total, it would hold around 7,000 people. It was very popular through the 2000s. Many major DJs have played there over the years, from like deadmau5, Paul van Dyk, Eddie Halliwell. There's been like Judge Jules, there's been like the Tidy Boys, Lisa Lashes, Lisa Pinup, Andy Whitby, Wigan Pier. They even did an event there and kind of had all like the bounce heads there. I'm not fully sure who played as such on that night, but there would have been some absolute legends, I'm sure. And I'm sure probably because it's a northeast, there would have maybe at some point been like a McKean event that would have probably taken place there. But people like Living Joy, they've sang live there. You've had like Julie McKnight. They've had like Faithless live there. So there's been a whole range of like massive DJs that obviously kind of, would have played in this club. And like every weekend, my parents went to this club religiously, more or less. And then I think like at one point it kind of changed to like, the last Saturday of the month, that they would go to this club, as there was a little bit of a shift in kind of like clubbing, and it wasn't as popular like to go every week. And like, I guess like cost of living was kind of even coming in back then, where like, it was a bit of a struggle to afford to go every week. So they moved it to kind of like once a month, and that kind of became the thing. But they went there, and they always told me that when I grew up that I would go there. Listen, we go to this place when you're old enough. We're going to take you there. You're going to go there. And then unfortunately, around 2010, it closed down. It literally went from being like one of the busiest nightclubs in the UK to literally like struggling to survive. And I think a big part of it was the actual, not just the club, like, because the club nights still seemed to be doing quite well. But when there wasn't a club night on, there wasn't so much of like an attraction for people to really go to the kind of like to the place itself. So like it was a wedding reception as well, and you could like have your wedding and stuff there. But I think the club kind of dominated it so much that like a lot of people like maybe just didn't want to have a wedding there, because like maybe like there's a lot of people that obviously out there that are not into dance and rave music, and maybe they kind of thought like, why would I want to have a wedding at a rave nightclub, if they were into that kind of thing. So I kind of think like if there wasn't an event on at the nightclub, which I would imagine like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they'd be very rare that there'd be something on, having a nightclub opening like during the week, and having like, people going out clubbing on a Wednesday night, like kind of that died a long time ago. So unfortunately, it closed down, and then there was a fire, and then the owner of the land did propose that there would be like a redevelopment of the site, and they would kind of like still kind of keep this like big hotel complex, and like add some more like a different vibe instead of having a nightclub there. But the plans fell through, and it's since been knocked down and developed into like new houses, new build houses basically. So I never got to go clubbing there, but I did get to go once to basically pick up some tickets. That was like, I think what had happened is I vaguely remember going, and I do like remember going like being at the car park and thinking this place is huge, and thinking this is where my parents go. But I think what had happened is because they used to talk so much about me going when I was older. Like I think they just genuinely thought one day, instead of like, ordering tickets via the phone, or like, maybe you could do it online. I'm not sure. I think maybe they thought, you know what, we're going to go and drive to Tall Trees itself, to the reception, and pick up tickets from the reception, like just one, just one day, like I don't know, like one Saturday maybe, and like take me along for the drive, just so I could go, because obviously like I could go as far as like the hotel reception, um, and pick up, and be all right. Like I suppose I'd be allowed to stay at the hotel. I just wouldn't have been allowed to obviously go into the club itself. So, I think they just wanted to take me. So like I got to see where it was, and so I just kind of got to like witness what it was. So anyway, it shut down, but they influenced my music. So. Like I say, unfortunately, my dad passed away due to a motorcycle accident. So I wanted to put a memorial event on where I could celebrate his life in a little bit more of a environment that's not a sad funeral, because he wasn't a religious person. I'm not a religious person, although I do have different beliefs now to what I had a couple of years ago. But that's irrelevant. We don't go to church, we don't pray, that kind of thing. That's just not what we want or like to do, and not what we believe in as such. So basically, like funerals, everybody wears a suit, more or less, like unless like somebody specifically says like I don't want people wearing suits at my funeral kind of thing. But 9 times out of 10, it's a sad environment. You're laying somebody to rest, or you're having a service before someone gets cremated, as you do. And so I wanted to do something that was separate to the funeral, not on the same day, not sort of around the same week, just something that could be like a few weeks after, where we could just come together and literally where we could just like raise a glass, celebrate his life, play music that he would have gone out clubbing to, and raise some money for a bike charity, as motorbikes are obviously, they're in our hearts. So that was the whole idea behind it. So I got in touch with a pub in Driffield, because obviously I live in Hull now, I don't live in Driffield. But like it would have just been like the most pointless, stupidest thing ever, like holding it somewhere in Hull, when for one, my dad didn't live in Hull. Two, like all of his friends and people that would probably want to come to this event don't live in Hull. And if like I was to put it somewhere in Hull, then there would have been like I can't get there, or it's like it's getting back in the early hours. And it just would have been like awkward and complicated when I've got family in Driffield that I can just go and stay with. And so I decided to host it at the Book in Driffield. Now, the reason why I chose that venue was because they booked me to DJ in there anyway, and I like to support the venue, and I also like to, I like to give back to people that obviously like help me out, and the Book have always been massively supportive to me of like literally what's going on, and stuff like that. And I've always, been grateful of the times that they've asked me, like, would you would you come and do a clubland night in our pub, kind of thing. So big ups. So I wanted to kind of like, give a nod to that. My dad was always proud when I'd tell him like, oh, I'm going to be playing in the Book again. He always liked that, because like, even though I've moved to Hull, it's like Driffield's home, and it always will be. And there's always a place for me in Driffield, and it always holds a place in my heart. And I've got to be honest and hold my hands up. When I left Driffield, I wasn't necessarily exactly positive about the town, and I did kind of like feel a little bit like, like it's just a deadbeat town with, and I guess like over recent times, through things that weren't meant to happen, it's kind of brought me closer to the town again. Now, I'm not saying I want to move back, but I am definitely saying that, like I do love the town, and I do like visiting there, and I've got lots of friends there. And I guess like in terms of moving back, I guess like never say never. Like maybe one day in the future, like my granddad lives in Driffield, and he like owns a house, and basically like the house has been a part of our family for years. And when I say years, like I'm talking a very, very, very long time. Like, like I think my granddad has like more or less like been a part of this house since he was 17. Like, I know he briefly did live somewhere else, but that I'm aware of, it was still, there was still family that lived in the house where he still lives now. So like it's always been a part of our family. So like where like obviously let's hope there's a good few years before we have to deal with another death. But like when that time does come, like it would be a shame to kind of like get rid of the house and then like have somebody move in who's kind of like no relation to our family, and to kind of have that like like nobles have lived there for years and then suddenly like the Andrews have moved in. I just don't think it would feel right. But like there is a lot of like consideration to obviously think about. But anyway, I'm digressing. So I'm close to the town, so it made sense obviously to hold it in the town, the event. And then of course, like the book kind of made sense because they've supported me. My dad was always pleased that they supported me, and he was always pleased that I played there, and he was always happy that I played there. And like that is obviously like the main thing, if that makes sense. So it kind of felt right for me to do that. And then it was just about giving him one final send off in a more positive environment. And that is basically like the whole rundown of kind of why I'm doing it. And then raising money for bike charity. Motorbikes are in our family. My granddad raced over at the Isle of Man. My dad was always a big fan of bikes. He lost his life riding a bike. So that was kind of like, in that sense, like it's in our blood. So it kind of made sense that we even though as much as he liked going out clubbing in the 2000s, it still kind of made sense that we still linked motorbikes back to it. As I think let's do something positive, and let's do something nice. And one thing I always try to do, which I don't always succeed, but I try to always like turn negative situations into positive situations. I always try to make light of a bad situation, and I just think like if you can make something positive out of something, make something positive out of something. Now it doesn't fix everything, of course, like we've lost somebody, things will never be the same again. Obviously, if I could cancel this event and have that person back alive, I'd obviously do it in a heartbeat. But like things are the way things are, and you have to unfortunately like accept that. And the only way I feel like is a good way of doing that is to try and like do something positive, and do people proud, and and yeah, just like I say, make something positive, do something good at the same time, and help people. So like this charity, it helps people with disabilities. And in the Isle of Man, or people that want to people that want to go to the Isle of Man. In that sense, it's helping people go to a place that my dad would recommend that somebody would go to it. The Isle of Man, my granddad the same. So that is obviously like the main thing. And then so that is pretty much it. That's why we're doing it. That is what we're doing. So a rundown of the night then. What is going to happen on the night? What is the event exactly about? Well, we know what it's about. We know why we're doing it, but like what exactly like is going to happen at the event? What type of event is it? We know why we're doing it, but what's happening at the event, let's say. So basically, I'm DJing all night. So it starts at 9 o'clock, and it goes on until 2 in the morning, which is when the book closes. so 9 till 2. And then basically I'm just behind the decks all night, playing a mixed genre of music all night, going on a journey. My general idea is that there is going to be no like pauses between songs. So like everything will be mixed. The only time I may stop the music is if I'm going to make a speech, which I think I am. I haven't decided when I'm going to make the speech yet. But like I'm going to say a few words at some point. I, like just to thank people for coming. So that is basically what's going to happen. But I just don't know when yet. I was thinking like maybe say a few words before I start. But then it's just like if not everybody's arrived at the start. I mean, I don't know exactly how many people are coming. It's an open event. So like there can be as little and as many people turn up. There's a lot of people that have said that they're going to come. And there is like a good bit of interest in the night itself. People are keen and loads of people have said they're going to come. But like I don't know like a rough idea of numbers. So I'm just thinking like, there might be more people that maybe arrive like 9:30 or, people might arrive early, you never know. But, the point being is I'm going to make a speech at some point. If there's enough people at the start, then I might just say a few words. I might say a few more words later on. But the idea is that everything kind of just mixes together. So like the night is just going to progress. As the night goes on, it's going to start off house, and then we're going to kind of progress from house into sort of like trance, and then from kind of like trance, going to kind of like progress into some like hard house, a little bit of hard dance, and then we're going to kind of like progress into like clubland and bounce. So we're probably going to start around like 135. And then like throughout the night I'm just gonna like speed up the tempo basically. So like we'll go from kind of like playing house at 135, maybe like up it to like 136, 137, maybe go into some trance, and then kind of take the trance from kind of like 137 maybe up to like 140, and then kind of like go into kind of like the hard house, and then take the hard house from sort of 140 towards maybe like the 145, and bring in some hard dance from sort of 145, and then sort of creep towards that 150, and then kind of play like the clubland and the bounce kind of anywhere from like 147.6 to sort of like 150, and then basically like I don't really feel that we're going to go faster than that. I think 150 will be the limit. My dad never really went raving to anything that was really above 150 as such. It might have gone to a few nights where maybe some of the DJs had played the hard house a bit faster than 150, but like 9 times out of 10, like it wasn't really into the he never really listened to hardcore or anything, which is a bit weird considering like I like it so much. But it was like that was like something I discovered myself, like not sort of through them listening to it, if you like. Although my mum did say that she went to see Scott Brown once, but I don't remember her going to see him, and I don't know if she was getting him mixed up with Scott Bond instead. But she claims that she's seen Scott Brown before. Maybe there was a hard out. Sometimes there has like in the past been like maybe like a hard house, hard dance event, and they've had like a hardcore room in the other room, and maybe like just for whatever reason that was one of them occasions, and Scott Brown was maybe in like one of the other rooms or something. I'm not really sure. All I know is it came, it was something I sort of discovered it through Clubland coincidentally, because I discovered like Clubland a little bit through kind of like my parents and like Clubland TV, and then kind of like went down a little bit of a, like, when I was growing up, I knew of songs like Pretty Green Eyes, and I knew of like DJ Sammy, Heaven, and I kind of knew like I kind of knew probably like maybe like Entrance, Set You Free, but like I wasn't really fully aware of like Clubland at that point, and the CDs that came a little bit later. So then when I discovered Clubland, I then discovered like, well, hang on a minute, there's like Clubland Extreme Hardcore, and it was basically like all the Clubland tracks, but like sped up, and there was like hardcore versions of them. And then I was like, I kind of like this. It's fast, it's bouncy, it's happy, and I always kind of liked that little. I guess everything I love, I always kind of have liked it a little bit faster. So it was a little bit of that thing of like, yeah, this is faster. This is like, this is sick. It's hard, it's fast, it's bouncy. I love it, and that's where my love for it came. So, but we're not gonna probably really dabble into that during the night unless there was like a real big need of like somebody like, oh, go on, loads of people wanting me to play hardcore, which I highly doubt, because a lot of people I know are not even really into it. There's a few people into it, but there's a lot of people that just genuinely like it's a bit too hard for them. It's a bit too fast. Not really their thing. So, we'll probably finish around 150, or we'll probably get to 150, and then that will just kind of like become the duration of the event. For the duration of the event, we'll keep it around that. And yeah, hopefully we'll just play some absolute classics, essentially. But yeah, the aim is that everything is just a continuous mix, unless for whatever reason I need to like stop the music, or like I know like there's a track that I really want to play, but it's like an intro version, and it is a hard house track. And I would really like to play it if I could, but maybe there's a way that I can blend it in. Maybe there is a way that I can blend it in where technically like the music doesn't stop. So we'll have to see. But I would like to play it if I could. It's a little bit of an awkward track to mix out of. So I'm debating whether to play the intro version, or whether to play just play like another version of it that isn't necessarily an intro version. But we'll see. As long as I play the track, as long as I play the track and that melody plays, it doesn't necessarily matter whether I play the intro version or not as such. It's just the intro. The intro version is really good. It's an amazing tune. So that's kind of the plan. So, like I say, starts at 9, finishes at 2 when the pub closes, and then people are welcome to go onto Keys if they want. People can do what they want, really. It's not up to me what people do. However, the event itself before then will run all the way from 9 till 2 o'clock. I'm probably going to get there around 7:30, 8 o'clock. I want to set up early, and I want everything to be right, and I want everything to be ready. And if I feel, like I'm rushing too much, like I would rather be set up and have like loads of time to spare, like rather than like, set like get there with like, minutes to spare and then having to like set up and rush. So like I'm gonna get there early, and then I'm just gonna basically like set everything up, do a sound check, and then just make sure that that is obviously something that could happen. you know so what I was going to say is, of course, it's an open pub. So like the pub will open at like 11 in the morning. Now I'm not saying go to the pub at 11 in the morning. I mean you can if you want, but what I'm saying is like, you know, if I'm there just after 7:30 and I'm setting up, basically, you know, like you are welcome to come at like 7:30 and have a drink. And you know, I will be there. I may be a little bit busy just setting up, but I will still be able to talk to you. I'm not going to be an absolute like dick and ignore you. But at the same time, like, you know, just be aware that I will be setting up as well. But then once I've set up, like I say, I might just have a drink. I might just have a drink. You know, either a soft drink or I don't know. You know, maybe I'll treat myself and have a pint. I'm not sure. I'm not a big fan of drinking when I'm DJing. But maybe just in memory of my dad, I may just have a pint and then do the rest of it sober. Or I might just have a soft drink and then maybe have a pint later on. We'll see. I haven't, you know, that the drinking side of things, I'm not really too worried about it. It will be what it will be. As long as I DJ, get the music right, give everybody a good one last memory of my dad. Do him proud, raise money for the charity. I will be happy. You know, that's more important to me than what drink I'm going to have on the night. You know, but typically I will normally just have a Coke if I'm, you know, if I'm DJing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, but you're welcome to come early. You're welcome to talk to me, and you are welcome to, you know, welcome to be there early and, you know, be ready for it if you want. I know there'll be some people that, like, you know, they aren't going to stay till 2. I know there's some people that are just going to pop their head in. Who aren't necessarily, you know, some like older people who aren't necessarily ravers as such, but they like the idea of what I'm doing and raising the money, and, you know, they're just going to come and probably donate some money, and then also just, you know what I mean, you know, show their face and just, you know, say hello and see what's going on, and then, you know, may leave like 10:30, 11. Do you know what I mean? But basically, we're in to hopefully have, you know, a good night that will do my dad proud, and if I can do that, then listen, I will be happy, because I'm not going to go into full, you know, details, but let's just say, like, you know, I do genuinely feel a little bit like, in terms of the funeral, that I just wasn't like, it was a really good send off for him, don't get me wrong, but I can't help but feel a little bit like, everybody kind of like decided what they wanted, and then like everything felt like it went too fast, and I kind of felt like, you know, like they were asking me like, what do I think, you know, or what would you like, so and so, and it felt overwhelming, and it felt a little bit like, well, you know, I like my mind couldn't think, so I couldn't just like answer it straight away, and then I kind of feel like, because I didn't answer it straight away, something else got arranged, and then I kind of felt a little bit like I got, you know, left out, and everything just kind of went a bit too quick. If I'm completely truthful, I felt like, there just wasn't enough really said about the things me and my. But that's another thing, you know. So I want to kind of use this night as like other people have had their way of like how they wanted to like say goodbye. This is my way, through the only thing I know how, which is music, and through a way that I know I can do people proud. And, you know, I've done people proud with it in the past. Music is like a part of me. It's a part of my family. It's a part of who I am. Without music, I would literally be nothing. My actual day job is around music. Everything I do, you know, music is an addiction. Somewhere throughout my throughout my day, music has to come into the equation of what's going to happen that day, whether it be putting headphones on while I walk to work, whether it be having a mix on the decks at night, or whether it just basically be like, literally like putting a CD on, or singing a song. There's always music somewhere during my day, and it has been like that for years, and it probably will be for many more years to come, if not the rest of my life. So so that's basically that. That's the vibe of what's going to happen on the night, how it's going to go down. The only other thing that I do want to mention, and I want to mention this because it kind of, I ain't gonna say it worries me, but I guess it kind of does a little bit. So I've been in the book recently on a couple of occasions. Met like cousins for like a drink and stuff, and aunties and stuff, like just when I'm visiting in Drift, like which I've got to say, like I've had like the most amazing relationship as of recently, with like distant family, and they've been so supportive and so nice, and like just like, I know like they're saying, do you want to go to the pub, but it's like, for me, like I don't see it as like, I see it as like getting out in public and just having a bit of a laugh and just socializing with people, and just taking your mind off it. It's been really nice. So I've been in book a couple of times, and I've seen this thing where people like help themselves to like go in behind the DJ booth. There's like a little booth in there, and they use it for like running karaoke and stuff like that. And people have kind of like gone behind there and like started playing songs and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to me doing the night there, like I don't want people doing that. Like, I don't want people thinking like, oh no, but let us behind here and have a mix, mate. Like, that is not how it works. And like, I'm using my own equipment, which costs, it costs a considerable amount of money. And I know that if something was to happen to it, they haven't got the funds to replace it. And they wouldn't even want to replace it. Because you're talking like, for the controller I've got is like, they're still selling, they're still selling for like £1,000. So like, if I needed a new one, they would have to like, and they were like, like, you broke it, like you owe me a new one. Like, they haven't got £1,000. Do you know what I mean? Like, as they aren't going to be able to afford to lay out £1,000 on new decks for me. So I'd just rather like people didn't touch them at all. And same goes for the microphone. Like, I don't want people just grabbing the microphone and thinking they can just thinking essentially they can just go on the mic and say and babble whatever they want. And it's an open event for people to come in, but it's not a free party for people to request whatever song they want and babble whatever they want down the mic, and start changing the music if I've like dashed off for a pee or something. And that is just pretty much it. Apart from that, everything should be all good. So I just thought I'd pop live, little rundown of what's going on, what's happening, that kind of thing, on the day of the event, on the night of the event. I want to do some decor. I've got some little bits of ideas, but I'm not fully aware of like, fully like what I'm going to do as such yet. But one thing I do know is I have got a little bit of a surprise in store that I'm not telling anybody about yet. It's nothing major. If anything, it might be a little bit more personal to me. But I'm going to do something that I'm quite looking forward to doing, because it's something that I'm doing because of this event, but it's something that also can like it can continue after the event, which is really good, and it's something that that can live for a very long time with me, and something that will be very, very, and every time I see it, it can be a reminder, but at the same time, it is pretty goddamn cool. So I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's exciting, but I'm not gonna say anything, and then I am gonna like literally like maybe on like the day of the I think. Oh, knocking my phone. I think what I might do, because I haven't got it yet, so maybe when I get it, maybe I will. Maybe when I get it, I will. Yeah, maybe when I get it, I will then make an announcement. Um, Absolutely love, really, really, and sort of show on social media what it is. But basically, it's going to be very personal to me, but it will be a nice touch for the event as well, I would imagine. Anyway, that is going to do it because we have babbled on. It is getting very close to 2 a.m. And I've got stuff to do tomorrow. So, yeah, make sure to like, comment, share, and we shall see you soon. Was a bit late.